Hello and welcome to the Hoop Troop podcast. I am Matt O'Connor, and joining me as he does on all of our shows is my cousin Luke Drovner.
What's up, guys?
And we are back with playoff basketball. Last time we spoke a week ago, we were just waiting in anticipation of some play-in action. Now we're actually on every series now has played one game of their first round series. So we have a lot to talk about this week, Luke. It's easy to, and I want to jump right to the actual playoffs, but I don't want to glance over the play-in because I will say a few years in, I think it has to stay. I think it's a great addition to the league. And even though these teams aren't the best, and you're going to have some games are they're not great.
I think it gives teams that are kind of on the verge an ability to kind of get a playoff feel. The Cavs obviously weren't going to be a championship contender by any means this year. And if we were thinking about the old playoff format, they would have been the 7th seed. They would have been in the playoffs. They would have played the Boston Celtics. And you just kind of have a feeling Boston would have won that series.
Oh, for sure.
Right. And that's just the inexperience on the Cavs. It has nothing to do with them, not being a good team or anything like that. It's just the Celtics have been there. They've done it.
Right.
So I think the Cavs played 2 games. Their guys kind of get a feel for how it's going to be when it's their time to start playing real series.
And not only are they playing real postseason games, they're intense. It's essentially a game 7. It's the closest thing to a March Madness feel that the NBA is ever going to get. And obviously there's talk of that mid-season tournament or whatever, but that doesn't feel as significant. This obviously there's so much on the line. Teams want to get in. So you look at, you mentioned Cleveland or I don't know, the Spurs now are not this older team. They're a younger team getting experience. The Pelicans and then the Hawks, they're a little bit of a different story, but I think that also adds value to having the play-in where it's teams like that, where they are clearly a better team. They didn't find their rhythm all throughout the season, but they're clearly good enough to go on a run, make the playoffs and, make things interesting. Obviously their first series against the Heat is not indicative of that, but otherwise, I think it's good in that nature. I think you look at them and the Nets getting in when they otherwise probably wouldn't have.
Well, so here we are talking about how great it is for these young teams to be getting some experience in a playoff situation. And also, I'm sure the league's making a lot of money from it, which is obviously good for the league and basketball fans and whatnot. But there are takeaways from it on teams that are trying to compete for championships, like the Nets, who fell all the way down to they were 8.
They were 8.
Right. And so in the regular in the old playoff format, it would have been no problem. They would have just played their first round series and, it wouldn't have mattered. They had to play that series anyway. Maybe they don't want to play against the 1 seed, but, if you're the Nets, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
But now you kind of have to finish in the top 6 if you want to be competing for a championship, because that's 2 less games, 1 less game that you have to play.
Also, if you think about it too, if you're in the play-in, you're guaranteeing yourself you're going to play a top 2 team in the conference. So missing that at all costs is pretty significant. Because you never know who you're going to catch in the play-in. Look at Cleveland. They were the 7, and then they caught the Nets, and then they caught the Hawks, and they lost both. And so you never know. Even though you could theoretically be in the playoffs, you never know what's going to happen. Look at the Clippers. They lost 2 games and didn't get in. Granted, Paul George got sick, but still. I
think they would have won that second game. Who they played? The Pelicans?
They played the Pelicans, yeah.
I feel they could have beat the Pelicans if Paul George was in, it would have been different.
Yeah, definitely. I think that goes without saying. But then you can make the case for Zion with the Pelicans too. So,
Yeah, but Zion's been out all year. Paul George was he got sick at the wrong moment.
Yes, exactly. He got COVID. So, but I do want to talk about some of the games specifically because I thought they were actually pretty good. I want to start with the Timberwolves Clippers. So that was the first night.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, it was so loud in that arena. After so long, they've only made the playoffs once when that was with Tibbs back in 2018, I think.
When they had the Wiggins Towns D'Lo. Was D'Lo on that team? No.
D'Lo's not on that team yet, but that was
he had Wiggins.
Tibbs
Wiggins,
had his
Towns,
guys
Butler.
Right. He had Taj, he had D Rose, he had
It was the Timberwolves.
Right, exactly. But that fan base is so starved. And to see them in such an intense atmosphere like that and how loud that stadium got, I thought it was awesome. And I'm glad they got in. because now I think their series against the Grizzlies is going to be.
It's a good series.
It's better than I expected, and honestly, I think it's more fun than if the Clippers had won.
Both the Wolves and the Grizzlies play the same type of game. It's very fast paced. Both teams are super athletic. Both
the top three
teams,
offenses,
right? And that has to do with the pace they play, and they make threes. So,
oh my god,
it's a new era of basketball. It's electric. I want to say like 21 in every 4 plays during that game was a dunk.
Yeah. Oh my god, fast break. That's a fast break. Like, and I don't want to say chucking threes because that's not what it was. Like they were hitting, but a lot of threes going up. Like it was. It's like a weird adaptation of what the Rockets were when it was D'Antoni and Harden.
Yeah.
Where that felt like they were just like at will firing. This is like a little more controlled, but it's like, yeah, if you have it, shoot it. You know, I think it's fun.
I think
it's
that's like kind of the
it's a new
direction.
wave.
A lot of these. That's the direction a lot of basketball is going now. Like I think from a young age, kids are learning to run with pace and kind of self-create in one-on-one fast break situations or 2-on-1s or something like that. So
yeah, definitely. No, I liked that game. I honestly, and then like sure the Nets got out to a hot start in their first game, but then you look at what Cleveland did to claw their way back in. And they only lost by 7, and like it was closer than that until free throws. Like I thought first night was perfect. Then you go literally just day by day. If you want to go through the games, other than Hawks Hornets, which was a total blowout, like Pelican Spurs was a good game. Then you get into the Friday games, and it's, you have Hawks Cavs, which goes down to the wire. Trae Young, went nuclear in that second half.
Yeah, he did not play well in the first half.
No, but he ended with 38. Like he just had 6 points in the first half. He went for 32 in the second half. Oh my god! And he's doing. Look, I was mad at Trae Young.
He was like waving at him, and
he was doing more of that stuff. And look, the Knick fan in me, like, is frustrated by it, but part of me is like so intrigued by Trae Young, and I like actually. It's weird. I'm like coming full circle. I'm like, it's kind of awesome what he's doing, and now he's okay being this villain, and he loves just like toying with teams. It was never personal with the Knicks. Like he doesn't care. He's just gonna dance on. He's gonna bow in front of you. He's gonna do whatever.
He's a instigator. On April 15th, I like to tweet Trae Young playing Monopoly with how many cities he's about to own.
Well, it's ridiculous, but it's true. Like he is making himself a villain in so many places, but it's so good for the league to have that, because not that the Hawks are like necessarily a small market, but they don't get the same national attention that a lot of other teams get. And for him to be like emerging as such an icon, and especially one in such like a negative way, like every team is going to play them and it's going to feel intense. And I think it's awesome. I think what he's doing for the league is great. Also, like, he's unbelievable. There's no denying it. I think realistically, it would be hard for me to make the case for him not to be first team All NBA this year. And especially, and I know you're not supposed to weigh these, postseason games into it, but like, look at what he's doing when it matters. Like the guy is going off.
Oh, 100%. And he's shown that he can do it from the time he was in college. When he was playing on Oklahoma and they were in the tournament, he had a good first round. And I think what happened was teams just were like, who else is on this Oklahoma roster that isn't Trae Young? And I think teams just were like, let's just take him out of the equation and see what happens. So that kind of sucks. And if you look at the first round matchup with Miami, that's what they kind of did. They shut him down. He had 11 points in that first game.
Yeah. No, pretty bad. But I think Miami did the right thing. They have the right script for it. They also have the right personnel to be able to do it. They're just going to smother him.
8 points.
They're going to smother him once he gets over half court and force someone else to beat him. And when they don't have Clint Capella to come set those solid screens, there's not much else the Hawks can do. And like, as much as I like a lot of their guys, they don't, as like primary ball handlers, like I don't trust a Hunter. I don't trust a Herter. I don't trust John Collins with the ball in his hands more. Like Bogdanovich kind of, but like I definitely don't get confidence in anyone creating their own shot outside of Trae Young on that team.
I'm so conflicted about their roster because when you look at their wing depth, they're so deep. Herter, Hunter, Bogdanovich. They've been playing Cabrera. I can't say his name. Timotei
Luau
TLC.
Cairo. Yeah, TLC.
Yes, they've been playing him because Collins been out, but I just think they have a lot of guys who can kind of play a wing role. But like you're saying, I'm not overly confident in any of them creating. I don't think they have a second guard, and I think they miss that, and they need that. They need someone who can create outside of Trae Young, because when teams do what the Heat did to him, 1 for 12 shooting, 8 points, you're going to lose those games.
Oh,
Bogdanovich was 0 for 8. He played 26 minutes. He missed 8 shots.
Yeah,
that's 6
also,
points.
Like, he only attempted 8 shots. Like, and he's probably your next best scorer. That's not good.
And you bring him in to kind of be that secondary playmaker,
right?
But I'm not like I'm not exactly sure who he was on Sacramento, but I have a feeling he was more of a wing than a guard, and I think that's just kind of where they're losing it.
Right, and I think that's what I'm realizing. And we can kind of transition here into the first round, because you mentioned their first game against the Heat where they got clobbered.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're hitting that point where they need to make a move for a second star. They have a ton of pieces that would be valuable on a lot of competing like title contender teams.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have this model where you have one star and a bunch of those guys, it's not enough to get you over the hump. And so at this point, they have their assets. They can go make a move, but I think it's time for them to try and go pull in someone else to be like 1A, 1B with Trae.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you look at some of the better teams in both conferences, it's a two-headed monster, right? It's Chris Paul and Devin Booker. It's Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. It's LeBron and Anthony Davis. It's Kawhi and Paul George. It's Kyrie and KD.
Harden and
Embiid and Harden. Yeah. So, I mean, their roster really does drop off. Like you said, Trae Young, you could probably make the case for an All-NBA first team. I'm not so confident first team, but you could definitely make the case for an All-NBA talent easily.
Yeah.
He could easily be a top 6 guard in the league, but they don't have a true forward. And it's hard to think about who you would want to give up, because I think like some of their wings could potentially end up being better players as the road goes on. Porter's still pretty young. Hunter's really young.
Right.
No, John Collins, I'm not so sure I want to part ways with John Collins, so.
But that's the problem. You're going to have to, because none of them are taking that jump to be that other guy. And so you can't just have a
stockpile picks. Don't they have a whole bunch of future picks?
They have picks. I mean, I don't know how many they have. I think they have maybe one or two first rounders in addition to their own in the next like 4 years or so. But with that, like, I think you have enough to be able to go make a move. It's not like you have like stripped your arsenal of everything that you can give up. So that's why I look at it and I'm like, all right, they are definitely in that position. Because let's face it, after watching that first game against the Heat, like, they're not going to win the series. And especially with Clint Capella out, they're not going to win the series. And you kind of got to make a decision this offseason on like, all right, if we don't make pretty drastic changes, we're just going to be the same thing again next year. Like, they are the same thing they were last year. And last year was great, but it was the bubble year. It was kind of fluky. And the East has gotten substantially better since then. The East is a totally different landscape than it was last year.
The East has become much more even since then.
Yes. And so you're not going to be able to like squeak by teams again and like be a 4 seed guaranteed. And so I think they need to bring in a little more firepower. So I do think they're going to be at a crossroads.
I think what is the potential of Atlanta being a free agent destination? I think that's something else we have to consider, right? Here we are talking about a trade. I feel like people would want to be in Atlanta. I think, it's similar. I wouldn't say it's like an LA or a New York, but it's definitely like, if you think about like Miami before LeBron got there, it would be like a similar market to that, right? It's warm weather. There's celebrities there. You're on TV, especially if Trae Young's on the team and then you join Trae Young, you're going to get a lot of nationally televised games. Yeah. It's not like they played bad basketball.
No. And I mean, the other thing too is Trae averages like for his career, almost 10 assists a game. Why would you not want to go play with him? It's not like he's going to be the star where he's a black hole and you're not getting the ball. Like, you would work well. He would work well with another superstar, guaranteed. I'd be shocked.
He's scalable, 100%. He's a good passer. He's a good shooter. I think one thing he really suffers when it comes to scalability is his defense, and that's just like if you bring in like a Jaylen Brown type player, you can kind of figure out a way or you bring in a two-way superstar, you can kind of figure out a way to hide Trae Young on defense the same way you might do like a Steph Curry or the Celtics did with Isaiah Thompson way back when he was leading those teams. So, and it's not, I don't think he's a terrible defender. I just think he's a negative defender.
Yeah, but I mean, I think at the same time, look at the Warriors hid Steph all those years. Like it's not impossible to hide a small negative defensive guard if they're explosive on offense.
Right, exactly.
So
he's going to offer you a lot.
Here's the thing, though. So what we're talking about with the Hawks, I think there's a couple teams like this. And another one I want to talk about, and it is playoff related, is the Mavericks. Mm-hmm. I think they are, and it's funny that they are linked yet again because of the whole Trae Luka thing, but their teams are set up very similarly where you have one star and then a bunch of role players who are very helpful. Now, say what you want, Luka's better than Trae, but so like their ceiling is a little higher than the Hawks. But at the end of the day, like the rosters are weirdly similar. And I think the Mavericks, if the Mavericks have another early exit, and yes, Luka's hurt, if they have another early exit, don't you figure something's got to give again?
Yeah, 100%. I think
without Kristaps, try and pull in someone else.
A year ago, we were complaining about how Kristaps is just eating away at all this cap space, and you're never going to do anything with it. They have similar guys on the roster. Now it's just kind of split. The terrible contract is split up over multiple people. Dinwiddie, I don't think is worth $17 million. I think he's a great player in its own, but is $17 million really his price tag?
No, God,
Bertans at $16 million. Is that his price tag?
A lot of money. Although Bertans did have a pretty good first round, actually. I think he shot well in the first half.
I don't think he's a bad player.
That's a lot of money for him.
Slightly negative defender, and the only thing he really offers on offense is shooting. So, which is like pairs really well with Luka. So, I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is another guy that they need to figure out what they're going to do with his $21 million he's getting paid. So,
and I think they're going to let Brunson walk too. And Brunson was their best player when Luka was out on Sunday or Saturday, whenever they played.
I think they need to figure out how to retain Jalen Brunson, because I think if you have Dinwiddie, Brunson, and Luka as your guard tandem, I think that's just a solid combo. One, Jalen Brunson or Spencer Dinwiddie can come off the bench.
That's the problem. You're going to have to make some moves to be able to pull him back in. Because you just mentioned
his bird rights.
I mean, you just mentioned all three of Dinwiddie, Bertans, and Tim Hardaway. Not to mention you have the Finney Smith contract about to hit, the Luka contract about to hit. They owe a lot of money next season. They don't have a lot to play around with. And so I don't know. Like, I don't know that they're going to be able to do it unless you move some of those guys to bigger contracts. You know? And you did just trade for Dinwiddie and Bertans. Are you really just planning to flip them right away? I would try to if I'm them, but what team is really going to want them?
I mean, Bertans still has 3 years.
Oof, that's
$16 million a year.
It's hard to
Spencer Dinwiddie's making 18 next year and 19 the year after that. I think the worst contract you have on the payroll right now is Tim Hardaway Jr. You need to figure out a way to move that. He's making 21 this year, 19 the year after, 17, 16. I would much rather pay that 19, 17, 16 to Brunson.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, I think that's in the ballpark of what he wants. I think he wants like $20 million a year ish for 4 years or something.
I think 18 a year for 4 years, I think is very fair for a Jalen Brunson type player.
But again, you have this budding superstar who clearly is hungry to move forward in the playoffs. He's gotten there the past few years, hasn't quite progressed. And this season might be a little different because he got hurt. And so I don't want to, put the cart before the horse here. But you got to figure they're going to be, if he misses more than he's missing tonight's game. So there's a good chance they go down 0-2. If he misses any more than that,
unlikely to play today.
Yeah. So he's not playing. But in any event, let's say for argument's sake, he misses another game and they go down 0-3. They're not coming back and winning the series. It's another first round exit. Something has to change there with this team. You have to convince him that we are all in on you winning right now.
I don't think he has any intention of leaving anytime soon. I think you'll see him play out his extension, the 5-year Supermax.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll trade him.
And I don't think this roster is bad by any means. It's just they're missing a second star. And
right.
That could be a lot of people. Again, when you talk about Trae Young and how easy it would be to bring in a second star to play with him. He's easy to play with. He shoots the ball. He passes the ball. Luka's the same type of way.
Yeah.
I think like a CJ McCollum would work really well. It would have been great if they traded for CJ McCollum at the deadline instead of the Pelicans.
Right. No, I
But
mean, I think there's a few people that you have to be on the lookout for. And then obviously there's been the rumor that they're intrigued by Rudy Gobert if the Jazz decide to trade him, which is funny
I
because
would
they're
think that'd
playing
be
each
so
other right now.
terrible.
I
Yeah.
think Luka with a rim runner would be great.
You can get a rim runner for a better value. Like you
Oh,
can
well,
get like
yeah,
a
the
Jarrett
contract
Allen.
is bad. Yeah.
The contract's terrible. Don't get me wrong, Rudy Gobert, defensive player of the year, blah 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 blah. But
No. Did you see I sent
Marcus Smart, I
Marcus
know, but
Smart as of this evening, defensive player
I'm
of the year.
talking
But
about
yes,
he
he's
won what, like 3 of them, 4 of them. I don't know
yeah,
how many Rudy
he's
Gobert has.
always, and if he doesn't win, he's always in the conversation. So
Right.
yes, like obviously like very important. But as we said on the last episode, the Mavericks defense has been great even without a guy like that. So I don't know that that's the trade you make, but I do think you have to show Luka, hey, we're committed to building this thing here.
Where is their draft pick this year? Do they have a lottery pick this year?
They were actually, I think, in the, and now let me pull this up. They just did
They're 26.
yeah, I think they not part of the oh no, they weren't. They weren't part of the tiebreakers that happened today with the draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they were. But yeah, they have their pick this year. They don't have it next year, or I should rephrase that. It's like top 14 protected to the next year. And like, let's face it, I'd be shocked. Barring a Luka injury, I doubt that's going to be in the top 14. So yeah, odds are they're not going to have their pick next year, but then they have all theirs in the future.
I mean, like when I think about guys coming out of the draft, you could find someone, I guess, like at 26, it's hard to find someone who could really be special at center or anywhere really. But like, I don't know, if they were drafting in the lottery, I don't think like Jalen Duren would be a terrible pick for them. I think it would be a good pick. Mark Williams out of Duke would be another one. He's listed up here in the lottery.
Right. But the problem is they're not up there. So,
right.
And you never know, you can find value in that late first round. Like there's we've seen it so many times. But again, how do you say like, oh, we got you this late first round rookie, he's going to come in and be the guy? And it's like, no, they're going to have to do something soon. Because I mean, think about it. They just cleaned house last offseason and like new coach, new GM, whatever. Like they moved guys because Luka was apparently unhappy. All right. Sure. Fine. Thank you, Mark Cuban, for showing that you're committed to me. Now, these other guys who are in here, how are you going to show me you're committed? Where's my help?
It just takes time. I really,
they have to wait.
And I think Dirk
went
through I think Dirk went through the same.
He at least
issues.
had Nash though early on. Those 2000s teams, he had Nash with them, which is huge.
But it wasn't like they were going all the way to the champion. They weren't going to the Western Conference Finals. It was a young Steve Nash. You remember? Yeah, he had a Steve Nash early, but Steve Nash wasn't really Steve Nash until he was in Phoenix and he was 32. Steve Nash hit his prime very late.
Fine, but still, you still have that like young promising partner that Luka doesn't currently have. You don't
even have to develop together. You just you have to like hold on and wait. It's like maybe the second star never comes. You just have to construct the right roster around Luka, and I just think that takes time.
Yeah, no, I mean I think that's possible. I'm just saying that is on my horizon if that series goes south. And maybe he comes back and they still lose, and that even reinforces it. But all right, let's move on. Now that we've talked about my two that I think are going to be in like a little turmoil this offseason, depending on how the first round goes. All right, let's talk about
the Pelicans and Herb Jones.
You are a huge Herb Jones fan.
Love Herb Jones. Oh my goodness.
Why? What's like your connection?
I mean, my first the reason why I become. I mean, the it's been a long love affair. I think I was watching Lakers Pelicans. I don't know how long ago. And I was on the couch with my roommate and we were like, oh, Herb Jones really doing it to the Lakers. And we were like laughing about it. We were like, this dude's name really Herbert.
I know.
And over time, as I've watched more Pelicans games, he's actually a really decent player.
Can I tell you
So
something? The more I watch him, the more I'm like, I mean, he's only a rookie, but he's so freaking good at defense. Like, he's better than the majority in the league. Like, he's got to be,
he
I'll put him like top 20 defenders in the league, honestly. He's that good.
he's an elite defender in the league as a rookie. He's got
It's
the tools for
crazy.
it. He's tall, he's long, and I think his development will just become. I think he already has a lot of defensive IQ. Obviously, that'll get better as he starts to learn how the game in the NBA gets played more and more.
Right.
And also, he's a decent 3-point shooter. As you know, it's not like he gets a huge amount of touches, but it's not like he's a bad shooter. You still have to respect him out there. So I don't think he's going to be like, oh my goodness, Herb Jones, he's ridiculous. Maybe he will, maybe, but um, he's definitely got some upside potential for like a high value role player starter type of guy.
The Pelicans,
Mike Mikal Bridges ish.
yeah. No, I mean, the Pelicans have a few of those guys where they have like these young, like solid guys they're not going to be stars, but their ceilings seem pretty high. Like if they really do have the right work ethic and like develop the weaker parts of their game to complement, like I feel like they all excel at one or two things and they're right there and they could make that jump to being like a real, like true, like good tried and true starter on most teams, but they're not quite there yet. And obviously Herb Jones, he's young. That's a different example. But like you look at a few other guys and you really could see them getting there. Like, I don't know. For example, like look at what they did with Alvarado. It's pretty cool how
he came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
He's from Brooklyn too, so I think he cried when he played at the Garden, didn't he?
He brought like his family and friends and he went off.
Yeah, good for him. He did.
But he also just, I mean, those type of guys, like those young guys who are hungry and like kind of get it, that they're like they try every night. It's awesome. It's fun to watch. And that's why I was kind of happy the Pelicans got in, because there's something fun about this team. And like, whatever, the Zion drama aside, like they are between CJ, Brandon Ingram, Valanciunas is good. You have Devontae Graham. Like this team is fun to watch. You have guys that can go like absolutely get buckets. And like
Devontae Graham hasn't been great this year though.
No, but I still like him.
I think he stopped. I think they pulled him from the starting lineup.
Yeah, I think they did, but that's fine. I mean, I think ever since CJ got there was really no need to have him with the starters.
I guess the problem really is, he's kind of in and out of the starting lineup.
Right.
I guess once CJ got there, it didn't really matter, but I think his contract's risky.
Yeah.
With kind of the minutes he's playing.
I do think they're toast, though. The Suns are going to kill them. It's not going to be close.
The Suns it won't be close. If you went into this series thinking that it was going to be close, I think you were completely wrong. There was no chance it was ever going to be close.
No.
And
like outside of the third quarter yesterday, the Suns really took care of them. Like the Pelicans won the third quarter by 11 points and still lost by 11. So, you can't imagine that the Suns are going to lose many quarters by that many points in this playoff run. So, I don't know. They lost by 11 yesterday. I would be surprised if any of their games are closer than that, to be perfectly honest.
I mean,
I feel like the Suns are just that good.
I don't think you're going to see the Suns play their hardest until maybe the second round. Who would they play in the second round? They'd play Dallas, Utah, winner of Dallas, Utah. Even then, they could probably cruise in that series. They could win in 5.
Well, I mean, look at, and I know we already talked about it, but I want to get back to their first game.
I can't help it.
Like the Jazz blew a lead against the Mavs without Luka. Like that game, they were up by like 10 or so in the fourth quarter, and they choked it away. And granted, they ended up pulling the nose of the plane up and they won the game, but they've blown leads all through the regular season, and it upset Donovan Mitchell, which makes the Knick fan in me happy. But they're showing that even in the playoffs, they're about to do that. Then when you're not playing a bad Luka-less Mavericks team, you're going to get crushed by the Suns. Like I would be shocked. I'll give them a couple games, but that's
you can't
maybe it goes 6.
You can't help but feel the Suns are coming out of the West, right? Like who in the West is better than the Suns?
No one looked as good as they did.
And I guess you can make the argument for Golden State if everybody's healthy and everybody's hot. But
if they get hot.
Like if the Golden State Warriors are playing their absolute best, they have a chance.
Right. The Suns, Whereas in the Eastern Conference, I feel like the conversation is not this clear. In the West, it does. It feels like the Suns are really in a league of their own. Because even though the Warriors blew out the Nuggets, like it didn't feel like that to me. Like I really did. Like the Nuggets were in it for most of the game, and then it kind of.
I think what the problem with the Nuggets is as soon as Jokic comes out, they suffer majorly. They don't have anybody continue to run an offense. Their defense is average. It's not like Jokic is a huge bonus on defense, but the problem is even when you take Jokic off and you put in Boogie Cousins, I still feel you lose something on defense. I don't think you lose a lot, but you're still not as good. If they had a Jamal Murray, if they had Michael Porter Jr., it might make a difference just because someone could kind of keep him in it. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Poole also absolutely popped off.
Yeah,
a lot of people are like, you can make the argument that he's their best player right now.
And the other, it ended up being a blowout in the first game, and they did.
I don't think Denver has a chance.
I do still, but you're right. I mean, I think they're going to neutralize Jokic, and that's going to be it. But Jokic still
going to take advantage of the Jokic-less minutes.
Right. I mean, he still had 25, 10, and 6. Like, it's pretty damn good. But that is like an off night for him. Like, he's going to have like the 25, 14, and 14 games if they're going to win.
He's going to have an efficient 40 points every night if they want to win.
Right. Yeah, but especially, too, you look at Aaron Gordon with 8 points. Like, come on. Like, you got to step up, dude. Like, they brought you in to be the second guy.
I wouldn't put that on. I don't think they pulled him in to be the second guy. I think they pulled him in because he's a good player. I think
he wasn't supposed to be.
After losing Jeremy Grant, they kind of needed someone to fill that role, and I think he fills it well.
Yeah.
I don't think he does anything particularly well, but I don't think he does anything particularly bad. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with that. Also just like I'm looking at the Warriors box score right now, and it's ridiculous. I mean, you have 5 guys.
Jordan Poole
in double
30
figures.
Points on 13 shots.
Poole starting with 30. And then Clay with 19, Steph with 16, Wiggins 16, Draymond 12. Like, they just have a little too much. And maybe I was a little too high on the Nuggets going into the series. I just really I feel like there's such a cohesive unit, and that's why I believed in them more than I probably should have.
They're just missing pieces. They just need guys to get back, and that's the only problem they're facing right now.
I mean, yeah, honestly, if they had a healthy Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., this team feels like it would be in the conversation with the Suns to me. I feel like Jokic is that dominant. And then if they had their supplemental guys, it would really make a difference. But unfortunately, we're just not going to see that.
I think if they had Murray and Porter back and Michael Porter Jr. was playing solid two-way basketball, they'd have a chance. But
yeah,
if Michael Porter Jr. comes back and the only thing he really does is score 20 a game,
not enough.
Yeah.
I think against the Warriors, they'd have a chance.
100%. But against the Suns, I'd be concerned still.
Yeah.
I don't think it's so clear cut in the West. It's like I'm watching these other games just because they're interesting series. Like Memphis, Minnesota will be fun and exciting, high pace, lots of shooting, dunks. Golden State, Denver, obviously Golden State's fun to watch. Jokic is always fun to watch.
Right.
Dallas, Utah, love Luka. Can't wait for him to get back if he gets back. And I mean, Phoenix, New Orleans, Pelicans. You kind of know.
Yeah.
But like we said in the East, it's not as clear. And I think one thing that really surprised me in the East was how good the Sixers looked against the Raptors.
Blew them out. Although, and it's too early in this game, but it's 13-10 Toronto right now, 5 minutes into the game. So too early to even make any conclusion about game 2. But also you have Scotty Barnes got hurt. Like it just feels like Philly's going to run away with it.
Yeah, Gary Trent's not playing tonight.
Yeah.
Thad Young's not playing tonight, but I don't think Thad Young's going to make a huge difference. But Maxey with 38 really stands out to me. And Harden wasn't super efficient, but still had 14 assists.
Right. So. That's the other thing that stands out in that game is you do that with Harden kind of not struggling, but like 22 points on 6 of 17. Not great. Not like the superb Harden we've seen in the past. 4 of 7 from 3, obviously great. 6 of 7 from the line, but I don't know. Like he's gonna have to take that next step. Like Tobias Harris scored more than he did. How often has that happened?
Yeah,
Couldn't have happened a
but
lot.
okay, but it didn't happen in game one, and they
Yeah,
still win. The fact that Harden doesn't need to be perfect for them to win, because Tobias
right.
Harris is obviously a great player in his own right. Maxey is now taking a huge step, and we kind of see him be a great player in his own right.
Yes.
The rotation obviously needs to get shorter, and I think they need to figure out what to do at center, because when they play a team like the Milwaukee Bucks, who have a lot of big men and can throw a lot of bodies at you, I think they're really going to struggle a little bit to find big man minutes. When Embiid's off the floor, the Bucks are just going to run Giannis at center, and no matter who you put out there, whether it's Millsap, Jordan, or Paul Reed,
They're gonna get cooked.
they're going to get cooked.
They're gonna yeah.
So,
And like I know they have DeAndre Jordan sitting there on the bench, but like that is a last resort that you do not want to play.
and that's kind of the case with Paul Millsap too. And they have
Yeah,
Charles Bassey, who played some minutes in the middle of the year when
right. But still,
Andre Drummond or Embiid were out. I don't remember who it was, but I just don't think they have a solution. I think they're missing. I don't know. I guess you can play Hart and Embiid 40 minutes a game if you really wanted to. I don't know how well
oh,
that's
I
going to
think you're
be
gonna
towards
have to.
his.
I think to win those series, they're gonna have to up the minutes. And granted, Embiid played 37 minutes last game. Like, I'm gonna ask him to run a little more. And it was in a
I mean,
20-point win. So like you could in a serious game make him play more. And he
I'm
still
not.
put up. He had 19 and 15. Not even the best Embiid game, as crazy as that is.
No, it isn't. But you also have to. He gets triple teamed every play he touches the ball this series. So a lot of what he's doing is either kind of forcing a hard shot or just making the extra pass. So
Right.
um,
No, but I do. I think it's a shame that the Raptors are in this position. Like I thought they were gonna. I don't know. We've talked about how great their versatility is and how valuable that could be in the playoffs, but they just got the wrong matchup. They really did. And then with the injuries, it's over, which is a shame.
it's going
I
to be tough. I
really,
think part of the reason is Raptors got to a really slow start yesterday,
mhm.
2 days ago, and just kind of never recovered. So tracking
Yeah,
this game here in the halfway through the first, they seem to be in a little more. It'll be good to see where we end up at the end of the game. But I think without Scotty Barnes, it'll be difficult.
yeah, I definitely
Um,
agree. While we're talking about the East, and we'll do the opposite because I mean, I don't even is it even worth going over Bucks Bulls because that's another one that feels like it's just over before it started.
uh,
But
I have
I
high hopes for the Bulls. Let's also relate them back to the Hawks and the
yes, they're gonna make
Mavericks here a little
changes
bit.
in the offseason. They're close, and like this shows they made a jump. They're in the
Mhm.
conversation, but they need a little more.
I think I think we've talked about this before, where it was great that you made the playoffs this year. You showed Levine that you're able to compete at a high level with him on the roster. They need to get Lonzo back. They need to figure out what they're doing at forward,
Yeah,
wing. They're missing a lot of rebounding. The fact that Vooch is grabbing like 15 rebounds a game is not going to get it done for you. You need to be able to rebound as a team,
right.
especially when you play another good team. So I think Pat Williams missed a lot of time. I think he needs to come back and play some more minutes and develop a little bit. Um, I think they have a good
Definitely.
roster. I just think they're missing like two or three solid role players. They need some vet presence
Yeah.
off the bench.
No, and I mean, right now, like at this point, their best minutes are with Caruso on the floor. And Caruso's
Right.
great. He was good for the Lakers. Like, I'm not trying to downplay this. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
need more than that coming off your bench, though. Like, your bench is
Right.
not giving you enough. And I think they need to retool. I don't think they're gonna win a single game against this Bucks team, especially when you're letting Giannis go for 27 and 16. Like, you're not gonna beat that team. There's no
DeRozan
way.
looks terrible.
Right.
Yeah, I like the Bulls. I think they just need reliable. They need a reliable backup center, and they need some depth at the forward spot.
And I will, to their credit, I think after the year they had, it will be easy to convince people to come play those roles on that team
Yes,
in the
100%.
offseason.
You'll get a couple of vet mins, no problem.
Definitely. Exactly. And
And
that's all you
and
need.
I was big on a couple of their guys. I think they should trade Kobe White.
Yep.
Kobe
I think
White.
it's time.
Um,
Because, and
and
I mean, obviously the injury bug was definitely a problem for them all year.
Mhm.
let's assume they're not going to run into that same issue next season because I feel like it's hard to do that. But they do have a logjam at guard. They have a lot of guys who can play. They can play small with a bunch of different lineups. You can stagger DeRozan, Levine, Lonzo. Like you can make it work if you get rid of Kobe White.
I think,
So
yeah, but I think it's about having lineups playing big. Right? When you think about some of the better teams and their ability to play big and small, it's great that they can play small, but they can't play big right now. And
but they're so close. Think about it. Lonzo's 6'6". Even if you go out there with Lonzo, DeRozan, Levine, and then someone and Vucevic, you could go big. If you bring in like a good agile four, that's still a big lineup.
I mean, Pat Williams can kind of do that for you. I just think again he needs to develop a little bit. He can't really shoot. His defense is questionable. It's not like he's grabbing a bunch of rebounds every game. And when you look at the guys they have behind Pat Williams, like I don't know the guy's first name, Jay Green,
like no one.
Javante Green, Derrick Jones Jr. I don't think Derrick Jones Jr. has ever been,
and he's not
fantastic.
Big enough. He's also just not big enough.
He was playing center for the Miami Heat when he was down there, and it made sense because he can jump so high.
Right.
But
I just think they have Tristan Thompson playing like it's just bad. They're down bad in that regard. Like they need something else.
They just totally need to retool their bench. With the like, it's great that Caruso is your sixth man, and I like Ayo Dosunmu, but I don't think he should be playing all that much.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, it just takes time. But the Bucks are going to win this series.
I think so.
4 games.
Yep, I agree. I think it's going to be quick.
Yeah.
But now I want to switch to the one, and I think it is just going to be the best series of the first round by far.
It might be the best series of the whole playoffs.
Honestly, it might be. Although I don't want to. I'm feeling some of these late round conference ones could be good.
You and Michael last week doubted me, thinking that Boston had no chance.
I gotta say, I did not anticipate it. I'm pretty surprised.
They were up big.
For those who did not watch yesterday on Easter, Nets Celtics, unbelievable game. Close most of it. The Celtics break it open in the third quarter. Nets come back. Buzzer beater to win by the Celtics. Awesome back and forth game. Like the first half, I felt like every basket they were exchanging, it was like I think there was like 17 lead changes, something like that. Crazy game.
They just match up so well against each other.
It is. It's such a fun matchup.
All the matchups, it doesn't matter who it is. Like they just Tatum on Durant, Kyrie. You got Brown and Smart guarding Kyrie. I think every matchup on the floor. Obviously, it would be nice to have Robert Williams back for the Celtics, but things might change when I think they're thinking he could come back around the same time that Ben Simmons comes back. If Ben Simmons comes back, if Robert Williams comes back, but I mean, it's an exciting series. I think Tatum played well. I thought Jaylen Brown played well.
You know who didn't? Kevin Durant.
Because Jason Tatum's a much improved defender.
Much improved. And you look at that last possession they had, the last possession the Nets had before the Celtics went down and scored.
Tatum kind of locked him up.
Tatum locked him up because you figured Durant was going to get like at least like a decent shot off there when Kyrie kicked it out. It was like a weird turnaround, deep 3-pointer. And like, sure, there was a chance it went in. The second he released it, I'm like, ooh, that might fall.
It almost went in. I'm pretty sure it clanked off the front of the rim backboard and then the Celtics rebound.
But like he only scored 24 or 23 rather, which yeah, that's a lot of points, but not when you're Kevin Durant. He was
the problem was 23 points on 24 shots. It wasn't so much that it was
he tied a team low minus 13 and shot. I mean, 9 to 24 is not great for him. When you're this like a pure efficient scorer, you're expecting more. And it's not even like you did a lot else outside of that. He had 3 assists to 6 turnovers. Like he really did have a bad game.
I think the Celtics were like he's gonna get to his spots, but we can make it difficult for him to shoot those shots.
Yeah, and Tatum did a great job.
That's what I mean. I think Tatum again matches up really well. Tatum is also like 6'9", long arms. They play a similar style game. Tatum knows how he wants to get these shots off. He's probably very comfortable guarding Durant. He's probably guarding Durant the same way he would guard himself.
Yeah,
which makes it easy.
I also think it does come back to, and we've been commenting on it, God, since they got Harden and made their trade. They have no center depth. There's no reason Al Horford has 20 and 15 against you. There's just no reason for that. He had 6 offensive rebounds. Come
Andre
on.
Drummond is inconsistent, and Nick Claxton is
just
not
not
going to get
physical
it
enough.
done.
Yeah.
He's so skinny, and I feel every time there's an offensive rebound or some type of mistake, there's a defensive lapse or something like that, the first thing I always see is Kevin Durant turn around and start yelling at Claxton, which is bad, right? You don't want to, like, Kevin Durant should be encouraging him, be like, hey, like, Kevin Durant should be trying to be productive with him, especially because he's so young and they want to develop him. They want to make sure he's making these plays in the future. But
right,
it's just so tough because I don't think he, like, intelligence wise at basketball IQ, I don't think he has the feel to play with Kyrie and Durant, who both have short fuses. So
speaking of short fuses, did you see everything with Kyrie in that game?
Yeah, he was flipping off fans. And
Oh
stuff.
my God, yeah. Flipping off fans multiple times. Then he like mouthed some out in the tunnel. Like, yes,
yeah, but
Celtics fans must be yelling bad stuff.
100%. Like the whole time I was sitting here with my roommate, I'm like, over under Celtics fans said this to Kyrie.
Oh my God, like, yeah. Definitely awful.
So
things. I'd be shocked.
It's not a comfortable environment. He played amazing. He started flipping off fans, and then he was, my roommate was like, oh, Kyrie's, yeah, he was like, Kyrie's 5 for 6 since he flipped off that fan.
Right, which, fine. I don't mind it. He's going to get fined and they'll move on. I actually think it's kind of fun. Like the hostility between the two of them back and forth. Imagine if he didn't have a good game and they were raining down on him like that. If he was missing more, if he didn't have 39 points or whatever he had, forget about it. It's a bloodbath in TD Garden. That said, I still think Brooklyn's winning this game or winning this series.
I think it's going to be Boston.
But here's the thing. We just mentioned how bad Kevin Durant played. He's not going to play like that. There's no way he's going to be 9 of 24 every game. There's no way. Literally, there's no way in hell he shoots that poorly.
But I mean, are you going to get 14 points out of Goran Dragic at plus 17 every game?
No, but let's.
Okay, so take away some of Dragic's offensive production and you give that back to Durant. You kind of even it out a little bit.
Fine.
I think that there are people on the Nets roster who played up and there are people on the Nets roster who played down. I think the Nets played a good game overall. I think they played a lot of great Nets basketball. I really think that when it comes push to shove, I think both these teams are very equal. It's going to come down to, some close game winning shots like it did last game. And, I also think there's some guys on the Celtics.
You mentioned Ben Simmons. You mentioned Time Lord. I don't think Time Lord's coming back, but it sounds like there's a chance Ben Simmons might come back in Brooklyn when they're in Brooklyn. For I don't know if it'll be game 3 or game 4, but it sounds like there's a chance.
If I'm Boston and Ben Simmons comes back, I'm thinking Lucky the Leprechaun.
I have a feeling it could disrupt everything.
I think it can make it easy for the Celtics. You just, hey, let's make sure Ben has the ball.
And we don't guard him.
Let him shoot. Right. And if he gets too close to the rim, foul him hard.
Right, exactly. It's better than Kyrie and KD having the ball. You'd much rather the ball in his hands.
So all you're going to do is chase around Kevin Durant and Kyrie around screens. You're going to try and make sure they can't get to their spots. And Ben Simmons, he's not going to be able to throw a good pass to him.
They're essentially going to play. They're going to go small though and play him at center, which I don't know without Time Lord if the Celtics can handle.
I think they could.
But who are you going to stick on Simmons? Horford, I guess, and just leave him in the paint?
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that, but it's not like he's like this big, rim, it's not like he's going to deter people at the rim.
No, but I think you do. So the first game they started Theis and Horford. So if Simmons ends up coming on the floor for Drummond, I think you need to take either Theis or Horford off and you need to replace him with a Grant Williams or something like that, depending on who Brooklyn's starting, right? If Brooklyn ends up starting, Durant, Brown, Simmons, Irving, and you could put Derek White out there instead of Grant Williams.
Yeah.
So, and I think I can't say his first name. I think Udoka is the coach's name.
Oh, Ime Udoka.
Udoka.
Yeah.
Udoka. I think he's a good coach. I think he makes the right adjustments. So
he was my preseason pick for coach of the year.
Yeah, there you go.
Close, but no cigar. Although honestly, I'm surprised he's not more in the conversation.
Why?
I mean, for them to be the 2 seed after being bad last season and essentially have the same roster. They didn't make the playoffs. Did they even make the playoffs last year? No, they did, and they lost the first round. They lost in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I this series is going to go down to the wire. It'll go 7 games.
Yeah, I think so for sure. I didn't believe that at first, but after seeing what they did that game, I'm shocked. And the Nets just are not good at defense.
So, I felt the Celtics were pretty much in control headed into the fourth. And then
the problem is Kyrie
continued
missing.
to stay hot. Yeah.
But that's what happened in their playing game. They were super hot in the first half. Durant and Kyrie both weren't missing. Then in the second half, they cool off, and the Cavs came right back. Because no matter what, their defense is Swiss cheese. And so if you can get Kyrie and KD off of their rhythm, and so they're not just drilling shots every time down the court, you're going to have a good shot because you're going to get your points no matter what. It's a question of how well your defense can play against them. And the Celtics showed they can do it.
I might even think like, okay, let's let KD or Kyrie get hot and make sure the other one doesn't really get touches. Because like if one of them scores 50 and the other one scores like 10 on 17 shots, you don't think so?
How are you holding either of them to 10 points? There's no way. You're gonna have to hope you hold them to like 30 and 20 is kind of what you got.
Marcus Smart's defensive player of the year. He's got to figure out how to guard Kyrie. I think there were some times when Kyrie would hit like a step back 3, or I don't even know if it was like step backs. He just kind of squared up, got on balance, and shot the 3.
Right. He went off. And
I think there were times when Marcus Smart like fouled him or played terrible defense. I was like, okay, here we go, Smart. Like you played on a team with this guy. You kind of know the drill.
Right.
You should, and you just got named defensive player of the year. I'd like to see Marcus Smart focus more on defense. I think he feels he should be getting a lot more respect on offense, which is fine. But when it really comes down to it, now that you're playing playoff basketball, put the ball in Tatum's hand, put the ball in Jaylen Brown's hands. Shoot your threes, stay in rhythm, but don't go overboard. I think, Marcus Smart taking 17 shots is almost a sin.
But that's probably what the Nets wanted. They will probably and if you're open, you kind of have to shoot, even if you are Marcus Smart.
I mean, 4 for 9 from 3 is good. I'd just like to see him get to his spots a little more. And,
yes. I will say that last possession the Celtics had with Smart catches the ball open on the 3-point line with like 4 seconds left, for him to pump fake and pass out of that, the discipline there is unbelievable. So you can tell
it was a great play.
Yeah. And honestly, I mean, Tatum, the spin move and the layup was impressive in its own right, but both Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart making the extra pass, because both of them could have forced up a shot there.
I thought the Celtics should have called a timeout. I was like, I don't understand why they're not calling a timeout just to inbound the ball to Tatum or Brown and let them make a shot happen. Especially like if I can force a switch with Jaylen Brown being guarded by Kyrie Irving, I'd take that all day. Or if I can force a switch where Tatum's being guarded by Kyrie, why wouldn't I take that shot?
Yeah, definitely.
Or even like, it doesn't even have to be Kyrie. Like, who else was on the floor? Seth Curry, Bruce Brown. Like I'd 100% take any of those guys guarding my 2 superstars.
Exactly.
And just kind of live with that shot. So.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it was just a great play and a great game in general. And so I think we're going to have a great series. Like that's definitely the one I'm looking forward to the most. But
yes.
So that's been the first round so far. Although, let's see what's happening right now. Philly and Toronto is basically tied still.
Philly's
they're 1.
Embiid's got 19. He shot 12 free throws already.
Oh my God. So this is like unwatchable basketball. I'm glad we're recording and not watching that. Oh my God. Yikes.
Harden's Sixers have shot 15 free throws to the Raptors 2.
Ooh. Yikes. I mean, that's what we said last week. You're just going to
He's got 14 though. He's got 14 points.
Good for Fred.
Yeah, good for Fred. If they had Scotty, it might be a little different.
I know. Yeah, they just don't have enough going for him right now. Like they've already brought in off the bench. You have Boucher, Kem Birch, and Malachi Flynn already all checked in, because you got to figure they're just going to have a ton of foul trouble. Like you already have Siakam and Anunoby with 2 and Kem Birch with 2. Yikes. Oh my God. Yeah, they're going to be in foul trouble. It's going to be a hard game to watch. Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah.
Good for Embiid though. He's like
Yeah,
the only one who scored. Harden has 5. Harden's 3 of 3 from the line. Oh my God. They have
George Niang's got 5.
Holy crap. They've taken 15 free throws, just the 2 of them in the first quarter.
That. Yeah. Yes.
15?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. I'm gonna turn, honestly, when I'm editing this, I'm gonna turn that on and watch the end of it. But oh my God. That is hard to watch. That's not fun basketball.
It's tied going into the end of the first.
Good for the Raptors. I doubt that lasts. Because someone else is going to score other than Embiid, and they're going to blow it open. Like Tobias has no points. Maxey, who had 38, has no points.
They've taken 15 shots. I guess they get fouled a lot, but
yeah,
they had 9 fouls. They had the same number of possessions. Also, another thing about that Toronto Sixers game last time, I think the Sixers turned the ball over once.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to play that clean a game multiple times in the playoffs. Teams are just better.
Yeah, so they had 3 turnovers, which I think tied the record.
Yeah, see, exactly. The record. There's no way they're doing that again.
Ridiculous basketball.
Right. But, all right. Well,
see how the rest of the games go.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like so far we've covered everything, but
happy to have basketball back.
Yeah,
I guess happy to be here in the playoffs. I'm invigorated. I'm excited.
Yes, exactly.
The games kind of suck today. I won't lie. But
I don't know.
Tomorrow, for you, it's okay because you go to sleep by the time it's like halftime. Nuggets Warriors.
Yeah, I'm not staying up for the whole thing. No way.
Right. I'm gonna stay up the whole thing, and I'm gonna end up watching the Warriors blow it open in the third quarter by like 20.
No, you're not. I have $5 on the Nuggets, so I can't have it.
Okay. Nope. Tomorrow's game is a little better for me because the first game is the bad one, and then they progressively. I guess Suns Pelicans really isn't that great of a game either. But the 5:30 NBA TV Timberwolves Grizzlies.
I know, and that first game was so much fun.
Towns didn't play like trash.
Wait. I know. Yeah.
I thought the best part about the playing game against the Clippers was like someone was like, "How did you think the Clippers did guarding you?" And he was like, "It didn't work."
Kind of did, Cat.
And everyone on Twitter was like, "He knows the games are televised, right?"
But I mean, still, for them to win without him playing well is pretty impressive. It
was very impressive.
They still had Paul George for that, the Clippers. So it's a good win. And then they went in, they beat the Grizzlies in Memphis. And granted, he did play well. Him and Edwards both went off. But they could win that series.
Russell is a terrible third option.
I wouldn't be shocked if they won that series. Sneakily.
I wouldn't be shocked either.
Just because I think they're both play so similar. Yeah, exactly. The Grizzlies are better, but if they're going to play like that, Cat and Edwards, and plus whoever else you want to sprinkle in play well, they can easily win.
Edwards with 36 is pretty tough. If he can't continue to score 36, I think the games end up coming out a little different.
Yeah, definitely.
Morant looked ridiculous too. I think there were definitely times where he became frustrated, fouled a lot. He shot 20 free throws.
I know. Right. He finished with what, 31, I think?
32.
32? Yeah. I mean,
Steven Adams didn't even take a shot, and he had 3 rebounds. I think that's a sin.
I doubt that happens. There's no way he's getting held to 3 rebounds.
Also, Jaren Jackson ran into foul trouble, so they played him limited minutes.
Right. No, I think the Grizzlies will ultimately win the series, but I wouldn't be shocked if after what I saw in that first game, I think the Timberwolves are going to put up a better fight than I think any of us thought.
It'll definitely. I think the series itself will go to 6. The winner is questionable.
Yeah. Interesting. But yeah, I mean, we got a good week of basketball. I bet by the time we talk again next week and record, one of these series will be over, is my guess. And at least one. And so we'll be able to start looking ahead to the second round. Plus, we'll probably be looking ahead to some game 6 or 7s.
Yeah. I think what we're going to end up doing is when we come back and talk again on Monday, it's going to be like, so who are the Suns playing in the second round?
I know, right? Exactly. We're going to have the Suns and the Bucks through and everyone else still playing.
Exactly.
But you never know. Plenty of surprises can pop up. Ben Simmons might return. There's enough that's going to show up this week. I'm excited.
It'll be lit.
Yeah,
It'll be good.
Exactly. But yeah, so this is the Hoop Troop podcast. Thank you all for tuning in, and join us next time for more playoff hoops.